Lots of snow. Living out in the wild for a long time, climbing, being with nature and stuff.
Probably think of, I don't know what they call them, the base master or something like that. Whoever stays there the entire season, their little dugout little tent with it's got like DVD players and iPods and it's all hooked up. And I thought that was
very big with the mountainsides all against them. So, honestly, I think I'm the tallest building on the. It's just a toy from those mountain points.
Big shoes, mountains surrounding like this huge amount of tents and a bunch of ways.
Malia using a 10-to-1 system to haul 5 of the boys across the snow and ice. So the base camp ranger, Tucker Chenoweth, set up an activity where he showed us how he would help get someone out of a crevasse and use the kids to actually, or the students to actually work with the system and taught them a little bit of something, but more it was an activity and had a lot of fun. So that'll be my input.
It was not at all as like rustic as I pictured it. It actually seemed pretty comfortable. I could imagine being up there. It didn't seem. Maybe climbing the mountain would be something I want to do next 10 years or so.
Yes. Have you heard about Tigger?
Stony got a tiny little sleeping bag that came up to here.
Someone got a super small sleeping bag. But besides that.
Until day 3 that we find out that Stony had a sleeping bag that was a little bit too short for him. We were talking about sleeping more and how to make sure you stay warm at night. And he's like, I can't get mine around my head. We're like, well, what do you mean? He's like, literally comes up to here. He pulled out the sleeping bag and like held it and got photos with Tigger, the sleeping bag. So yeah, a little bit of an oversight that he's like, yes. I guess we saw that it was a 0-degree bag. We just didn't look at the length of it for Stony. And he slept with it the first night, but he just used it like a blanket because it was so warm inside where we slept. So it was pretty hilarious.
Yes. I think you've probably heard the story a couple of times now, but the Tigger-sized sleeping bag. The best part is that the student who we accidentally gave the like child-sized sleeping bag to didn't even mention it until the 3rd day of the trip, and at that point he wasn't complaining. It was just sort of offhand mentioning that he had a Tigger. This is a 6-foot-tall, young man with a Tigger sleeping bag. I laughed and was very embarrassed at the same time.
I accidentally got a child-sized sleeping bag named Tigger. It said Tigger on the tag, and it only came up to about my waist. And I was cold just about every night, so I didn't sleep very well. That was really frustrating. But I guess it was still really great. I just layered jackets on top. I guess I was warm enough.
But I still like working with young adults.
I can accomplish more if I set a mind to it. I can definitely do that. Bunch of confidence.
It's been quite a few years since I really hiked a mountain, and I thought I was gonna do a lot worse. I think I did better than I expected.
I learned that if I put a lot of effort in, it can all get accomplished.
I can go, I got a lot more stamina than I thought I had. Time experience.
So you just gotta get in the habit of doing something like this over and over without any sorts of technologies or anything like that. So I had to get into a different routine. The mental and the physical strength he gets out of it. Basically.
All sorts of stuff. I really pushed myself to the limits on this trip. I'm not in the best of shape, but I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I had a lot of fun going in there. I can actually hike that far if I just push myself hard enough. But, yeah, that was really fun.
I guess I learned that I could push myself harder than I thought I could. The hiking, I wouldn't pictured myself doing that necessarily before. I feel much more comfortable.
There was a lot of perseverance involved with helping the base camp portion of the trip happen, and I definitely learned a lot about communication and sticking to one's vision and dreams through that experience.
That if I
really try. I can do more than I think I can, because I never really thought I could hike the ridge and or go to base camp.
It's frustrating. I'm off on my pop music. I couldn't sing along very well in the van. It was
Packing my bag. That was
2 miles straight up the mountain first.
That's pretty hard. Lots of uphill and downhill.
probably waking up on the second day and having to pack a soaking tent in the rain, and it was kind of a miserable little morning.
The downhill from the loop that we did, the downhill kind of hurt my knees a bit, so that was, I don't know, a little frustrating at times, but it was really rewarding in the end.
Everything, just the rain, that it could get frustrating.
yeah.
Especially when you're setting your tents up, cooking in it, sleeping in it. And it just gets
The
stressful.
hardest part was that for the first couple days it was really bad weather.
It varied. I think maybe I think as for the group as a whole, it was the harder moments were the cold temperatures at times and the mosquitoes at times. Nothing was ever particularly frustrating.
I really enjoyed the flight. It was really, really fun. I mean, we got to see the whole landscape, the whole Alaskan range and everything. It was really, really great. We got to meet some amazing people at base camp. It was really fun.
Going into planes, seeing the clouds part, seeing the mountain for the first time, I've never seen that far up close. It's really big.
I think I really liked flying in that otter. Like, I remember we were going through the clouds and we kind of did this. We were like really near the mountain, and there's this little ridge that did this U shape, and we kind of went like right over it, and the plane seemed to be like right there.
Would have to be taking the Otter, the aircraft, up to the base camp up at Mount McKinley. Now that I had a great
My
time.
best moment was probably sitting in front of the plane with the pilot and landing on base camp.
I liked on the flight seeing the thing when we landed on base camp when we first came out of the clouds and looked around and saw, you know.
I would have to say it's hard to pick one best moment. I think from my perspective, being with the group and watching them come together as a group and having that sense that they had accomplished something as well, that not only I think that they didn't quite realize as much that being a group was part of the accomplishment, but having that as an accomplishment beyond just completing the route that we had set out.
It's a tie between getting to the top of Rookie Ship Hill and then going to base camp.
The best moment, I think, was actually when we first got down off the ridge and we were able to look back and see how far we hiked. It was really cool. We could see like the whole line, and it felt amazing to just hike that. I didn't think I'd be able to do it.
The best moment was seeing the students achieve their goal of making it all the way around the loop, the 12-mile loop. You know, because at the beginning they didn't think that they could hike that far. They looked up and had fear on their faces, were quite sure they couldn't make it, and at the end to see their faces and them pointing and saying, "We just hiked that whole 12 miles." That was the best part.